Right. And the implication is that they may be wrong, of course, in calling themselves a philosopher. Again, I want to get out of this question too, just like in the previous question when I wanted to give answers based on other people's answers. There's always the tendency to settle on easy existing answers and as opposed to thinking for yourself. One way that this question has been answered already is that a philosopher is someone who has read a series of books, usually starting with Plato and before Plato, pre-Socratic, the so-called pre-Socratic philosophers. So to be a philosopher is to belong to a history of texts and people who have been concerned, preoccupied with a series of questions, like what is the nature of existence? What is a good life? How should we act? What I know is that I'm usually, we are, I think this is common. We are not impressed by people who call themselves philosophers. Like, as a philosopher, blah, 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 As a philosopher, or as an analytic philosopher, I blah, 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 blah. I had this ongoing conversation with one of my colleagues. Sometimes I ask this colleague, why do you care about this question? Or why are you working on this question? And this colleague's response is, I work on it because analytic philosophers care about these questions. Like, that doesn't really answer my question. That just says, it postpones the question. Question becomes, why do analytic philosophers care about these questions? Why is your group caring about these questions? There is something childish about being a philosopher, and I think people who call themselves philosophers, and I'm not one of those people, maybe they want to say that they are preserving and protecting that childish part of their life, their mind, that they're refusing to grow up and to be too serious and to be too practical. They are refusing to stop playing. They're refusing to stop doing useless things. There's a book, I like the title. I purchased the book based on its title. It is called In Praise of the Useless Life. And it's written by a monk. It's a monk, theologian, Christian philosopher, thinker. So philosophers are people who don't stop praising the useless life and people who don't stop learning. I know Sam Rocha has a little book called A Primer for Philosophy and Education. In that book, he says that education for him is the same as philosophy. Just like how Alvin Noe says that art and philosophy are fundamentally the same kinds of activities. For Sam Rocha, education and philosophy are at their root the same kind of activity, and they're a part of human nature. But I don't know. There must be many different reasons why people call themselves philosophers. So there's no one answer. But I think your question is, in its playful way, wants to remind us that not everybody who calls themselves philosopher are philosophers. And I'll keep that in mind for myself too. So thanks for that question.